Hello students, welcome to the daily news analysis. I hope you all are doing great. So today we'll be understanding the important news articles of 24th March 2022. Let us begin with the news. On the very front page of the Hindu, you will find a positive news. Exports have crossed $400 billion, right, in the financial year, right. So in the last financial year, which is yet to complete on 31st of March, we have already crossed the target. The target set for this financial year was $400 billion, right. So there are still 7 days to go and the exports have already touched $400 billion. So that is a very good news, right. At the time when India is negotiating various free trade agreements, FTAs, with various countries like UAE, UK, Australia, etc., right. So it is a very good news. Exports have increased, right. You all know, guys, that there is something called as trade balance. Trade balance is nothing but the difference between exports and imports. Certainly, if the exports are greater than imports, it is called as trade surplus. If exports are less than imports, it is called as trade deficit, right. Because when you are importing something, you have to pay in dollars, right, and this amount is being comes from foreign exchange reserves, right, forex reserves, right. So you pay in dollars and this amount comes from the forex reserves, correct. So therefore it drains out the foreign currency from India. Imports drain out the foreign currency from India, right. So therefore if the imports are greater than exports, it is called as trade deficit, and if the exports are greater than imports, it is called as trade surplus. Although the exports have crossed $400 billion mark, but still we are into trade deficit. Still there is a trade deficit because we are more dependent on the imports, especially the crude oil, right. So we are dependent on the Gulf countries and others for the crude oil, and we are shelling out our foreign exchange reserves for importing the crude oil, right. So the trade balance, there is a trade deficit, but still the exports have crossed $400 billion. So in this sense the trade deficit has improved, right. So this article is about this news, that is the increase in the exports. Now the government is pushing its move of Atmanirbhar Bharat, right, and in this the domestic commodities are being promoted, and we are able to find the market in the foreign countries for our domestic commodities, right. So the government is saying that it is because of the success of Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign, right. At the same time, India has also seen the huge market for the engineering products in the world, right. So engineering products are also being sold to various countries, thereby increasing the exports. At the same time, gems and jewelries are also being sold across the world, right. So this way, majorly if I talk about the agricultural commodities, rice, wheat, spices, sugar and various marine products have also seen increase in their export market, right. So I believe it is clear, exports crossing $400 billion, right, and we have met the target, right, and it is the highest exports in the history. It is the first time ever that we have touched $400 billion target, right, in any financial year, right. I hope it is clear. Moving ahead, so this is the data for the same, the trade deficit and the merchandise exports, right. Guys, India exports mainly to countries like America, UAE. You all would be knowing that recently a free trade agreement, right, comprehensive economic partnership was being signed with UAE, right. And guys, UAE is the third largest export destination for India, right. UAE or United Arab Emirates is the third largest export destination for India. At the same time, UAE is also the 9th largest investor in India, right? Although this question may be asked that which among the following countries see exports from India, or the highest exports from India. So the answer would be America. The second is definitely UAE, China, second is China, then third is UAE, then Bangladesh, Netherlands, right? At the same time, we also import from China, highest from China, with which we have huge trade deficit, and UAE, Saudi, Iraq and United States. I hope it is clear. Moving ahead, so this is the data. Guys, recently the Supreme Court has come up with a judgment that the state assembly can impose tax on other states' lotteries, because lotteries actually comes under gambling and betting, right? It's being interpreted by Supreme Court that lottery as a as a option, generally it comes under the big heading of gambling and betting. Now gambling and betting is something which comes under the state list, right? It comes under the state list. You have entry 34 of state list. We all know, guys, that India is a federal country where the legislative, executive, financial powers are vertically divided between center and the state, right? And there is a schedule called as Schedule 7 of the Indian Constitution, which has list 1, also called as Union List, list 2, the state list, and list 3, the concurrent list. Now in list 1, all the subjects which are mentioned in the list 1, the union government or the parliament can make laws. Over list 2, the state government or the state legislature can make laws. And list 3, which is called as the concurrent list, both the parliament as well as the state assembly can make laws, but in times of conflict the law of the parliament shall prevail, right? So these are the 3 lists which actually ensures that India is a federal country and there is a vertical division of powers between the center and the states, right? Now in list 2, which is the state list, you have entry 34, which talks about betting and gambling, right? So that means over betting and gambling, it is the state, respective state government which has the power to make laws, and lotteries are being interpreted under the broad heading of betting and gambling, which is under entry 34 of state list, right? I hope it is clear. At the same time, in state list there is also an entry called as entry 64, which actually gives power to the state legislature to levy taxes on the betting and gambling, right? So the state government gets the power from entry 64 to impose taxes over betting and gambling, and lotteries are being interpreted under betting and gambling, right? So it is, sorry, my bad, just corrected, it's entry 62. So entry 62 gives the state legislature the power to tax lotteries under entry 62, right? So I hope it is clear. So Supreme Court has interpreted that the state assemblies can impose taxes on other states' lotteries, right? So even if let's say there is a state of Maharashtra, and if it want to levy taxes on lotteries in Assam, it can do so. I hope it is clear. So the state legislature has the right to impose tax on lotteries conducted by other states, and lotteries comes under the heading betting and gambling, right? Entry 34 and entry 62 that we discussed. I hope it is clear. Moving ahead. Article 355 needed in Bengal. Guys, in Bengal there is a place called as Birbhum, and in Birbhum recently some clashes and riots have taken place where more than 8 people have lost their lives, right? And the governor of West Bengal has actually warned the Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee against these clashes, right? So the central government and the governor has has in fact suggested the central government that some action may be needed under Article 355. Guys, Article 355, you all know there are three kinds of emergencies. There are three kinds of emergencies: Article 352, Article 356 and Article 360, right? Article 352 is national emergency. That is when there is a war or imminent threat of war. The government of India, president can invoke Article 352 and impose national emergency. Article 356 is state emergency, technically called as constitutional breakdown of state machinery, and in layman terms it is also called as president's rule. Article 360 is financial emergency, right? So Article 352 till Article 360, the 9 articles talk about the emergency provisions. 352 is national emergency, 356 is president rule, 360 is financial emergency, right? Now under 356 the state comes under the president's executive jurisdiction, right? Now just article prior to 356 is Article 355, which says that if there is a internal disturbances in any state and the administration of the state cannot be carried out further, such circumstances would make the the governor would send the report to the president, and the president based on this report may impose the president rule, right? So to ensure the state is governed as per the provisions of the constitution, right? I hope it is clear. So moving ahead, so there is a law and order breakdown in West Bengal because of the Birbhum violence, and Article 355, as you can see on the screen, clearly reads that it shall be the duty of the union, right? So it is the duty of the union to protect every state, right? Because our constitution is I would say there is a unitary bias in the constitution, and Article 355 actually showcases this bias, right? So there is a duty of the union to protect every state against external aggression and internal disturbances, and to ensure that government of every state is carried on in accordance with the provisions of the constitution, right? So it is the duty of the state it is the duty of the union to protect the states from external aggression and internal disturbances, right? तो अगर कहीं लगता है किसी स्टेट के अंदर इंटरनल डिस्टर्बेंसेस हो रहे हैं या फिर वहाँ पे जो है एक्सटर्नल अग्रेशन हो रहा है, तो इट इज़ द ड्यूटी ऑफ द यूनियन टू प्रोटेक्ट द स्टेट, राइट? एंड दे मे इम्पोज आर्टिकल 356 इफ दिस इज नॉट कंट्रोल्ड, राइट? सो देयरफॉर the news regarding Article 355. I hope it is clear. Moving to the next news article, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC. It has been in the news, guys, and as we say that we don't limit ourselves to the Hindu newspaper, but we also cover some important news articles from Indian Express. So what is OIC, or Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and what are its relations with India? Guys, OIC talks about the interest of the Muslim world, right? Today it has 57 members, and most of them are the Muslim Islamic nations, right? And they talk about the interest of the Muslim world, right? As an organization, it was an offshoot of a conference which took place in the year 1969 at a African nation named Morocco. So in Morocco, the capital of Morocco is Rabat, and in Rabat in 1969 a conference was held, right? And and based on that conference, this organization came into being. Till 2011, it was called as Organization for Islamic Conference, and post 2011 it was called as OIC, or Organization of Islamic Cooperation, right? Mind you, India is not the member of OIC. Instead of being, you know, having the second largest Muslim population in the world, right? Now the headquarter of the OIC is Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, right? So this is there. So as I said that there are 57 members, and it is the world's second largest organization after United Nations, right? Because we know that in United Nations there are 193 member countries, and in this sense OIC is the second largest organization after United Nations, right? 57 members. So OIC's objective is clearly defined to safeguard and protect the interest of the Muslim world, as I said. And the first Islamic Summit conference was held in Morocco, Rabat, in the year 1969, right? And after it was actually the result of the 1967 Arab-Israel war, right? It happened, guys, that in Israel, one Australian person, you know, he actually destroyed a mosque and posed that Arab-Israel war, you know, started in the year 1969. So just 2 years after 1967, in 69, OIC was being formed, right? Organization of Islamic Conference, until 2011. So these are some factual details on the screen. It was founded in the year 1969. Very important, guys. They may ask you this question because OIC is very much in the news. आप लोगों को पता होगा कि just कुछ दिन पहले when you know, hijab controversy was going on, OIC commented on this, right? Again, they also has a very stern position with regard to Kashmir, right? So therefore OIC is always in news. So it was founded in 1969 at Rabat, the capital of Morocco, somewhere here, capital of Morocco, an African country, 1969, right? Originally there were 30 members, today 57 members. And India, although India has second largest Muslim population in the world, but India is sadly not the member of OIC. The key bodies of OIC are mentioned on the screen, right? So these are the nations, the red countries, which are the members of you know, the OIC, right? Mostly African nations, Gulf nations, Afghanistan, Pakistan, then Iran, Iraq, so on and so forth. Here, guys, you can see the list of the dark green countries. The countries coded in dark green color are its members, which are 57 in number, right? And the light green is for those who are being given observer status, right? So Russian Federation is being given the light green code, so it has the observer status, right? Guys, the purple color talks about the country or the countries which have been suspended or expelled from the OIC. Guys, there has been only one country which has been expelled from the OIC in the year 2012, and that is Syria, right? So Syria has been expelled, has been removed from OIC in the year 2012, right? So they may ask you this question: which among the following countries have been expelled from OIC? So the answer would be Syria. I hope it is clear. So 57 member countries, founded in the year 1969, right, after Arab-Israel war, at Morocco, Rabat. India is not a member. The only country to be expelled is Syria, and Russian Federation is having the observer status. I hope it is clear. So guys, India should be given the membership of OIC because we host, you know, we have second largest Muslim population in the world, but because the only Islamic country in the world having nuclear weapon is Pakistan as of today, right? And you know, and it has time and again rejected India's claim to become the member of OIC. Although in 1969, when the negotiations were when the conferences were going on, India was invited at the Rabat conference, at the Morocco conference in 1969, but India was ejected by Pakistan, because of many reasons, right? So these are the details, right? So even Bangladesh supports our membership into the OIC. Bangladesh says that India should be made the member of OIC, right? Because it says that more than 10% of the world's Muslim live in India and should be given at least the observer status, right? You would be remembering, guys, in 2019 the foreign minister of India, Sushma Swaraj, she was being called for the to address the inaugural session of OIC, Council of Foreign Ministers, and as a guest of honor, right? So I hope it is clear. So why is India not an OIC member? See, the terms and condition of OIC clearly says that only that country which is constitutionally Islamic, right? That means it is non-secular and Islam is its official religion, right? Like Pakistan, like Afghanistan. So the country has to be constitutionally Islamic, right? But India is a secular country, so therefore India is not a member of OIC. Plus it should also promote the organization's goals, right? That means that country must promote the organization's goals and the goal of the OIC is the welfare of the Muslim world, right? Now Turkey, despite being a secular country, it is a member of OIC as it is promoting the goal of OIC, right? So I hope it is clear. Well, coming to the editorials page from the Hindu. So on the second page of the editorial, there was a news with regard to Russia's war, and the author is saying that the Russian war must stop. Guys, we all know that there was a United Nations Security Council resolution against the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and out of 193 countries, 141 countries favored that resolution against Russia, right? And 35 countries, including India and China, abstained from voting, right? So India along with China abstained from the voting for the resolution at Security Council against Russia, whereas there are 5 countries which actually favored which were against this resolution. In this sense, they were supporting the Russian war in Ukraine, and these 5 countries may be asked in the examination, right? So number 1, Russia itself; second, Belarus, the ally of Russian Federation; third, North Korea, right? And fourth is one African country, Eritrea, to the north of Ethiopia, and fifth is Syria, right? So these countries actually were against that resolution. That means they supported the Russian invasion of Ukraine, whereas 35 countries, including India and China, abstained from voting. That means they didn't voted, right, either in favor or against it, right? Whereas 141 countries voted in favor of the resolution, number 1, right? So therefore there are UN sanctions also against the war, and today we have it has completed almost a month, right? And Russia is not stopping its the war at the ground, at the in the air, right? There have been huge civil casualties, and it's being said that more than 30 lakh Ukrainians have fled their country, right? So definitely it has become a very big war, and UN has also passed the resolution against Russia, but Russia is not stopping, number 1. Number 2, just few days back, around 3-4 days back, there was also a resolution at ICJ, right, International Court of Justice at The Hague, Netherlands, right, which actually the resolution was against the Russian invasion of Ukraine, right? And even India there was represented by the judge Dalveer Singh Bhandari, and India also, I mean, in this sense at least, Dalveer Singh Bhandari in his individual capacity voted against the Russian invasion of Ukraine, right? So therefore the two big bodies, one, and definitely they both are, because ICJ is again International Court of Justice, is also one of the principal organs of the United Nations, right? And they both have voted against the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So therefore there is a pressure on Russia, but then it is not stopping because of the support from some countries like China, right? So this article talks about the same, about the sanctions which are being imposed, the economic sanctions, the Russia being being taken away from the SWIFT network, and so it talks about the rule of law and how European Union works on the rule of law and not rule of gun, right? So a bit of detail about the United Nations General Assembly. Guys, we all know that after the end of the Second World War in August 1945, United Nations as an international organization to promote international peace, and to ensure that no future war takes place, right? So it works for nuclear disarmament. So United Nations is an international organization, also it is an international organization which works for the world peace, right? So it was founded in the year 1945, and originally it had 51 members. Today, guys, United Nations has 193 members. So from 51 it has grown to 193. Now it has 6 principal organs, as you can see: the United Nations General Assembly, United Nations Security Council, which you know that has 15 members, P5 permanent, 5 and 10 non-permanent. These are the one who are permanent members, like US, UK, France, Russia and China. They have the veto powers, right? And 10 are non-permanent members, and India is at present the non-permanent member of the Security Council. The third is ECOSOC, or Economic and Social Council. The fourth is Trusteeship Council. It is no more functional, it is dysfunctional since 1994. And then you have ICJ, International Court of Justice at The Hague, Netherlands. And then you have United Nations Secretariat, which actually does the administrative works, right? So the United Nations General Assembly is like the international parliament, right? So all the 193 countries are represented in the United Nations General Assembly, and they vote for any resolution as they voted against Russian invasion of Ukraine, right? And the General Assembly has one president. So as you have a speaker and the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, similarly the presiding officer of the General Assembly is called as the president of UNGA. The present president of the General Assembly is Abdullah Shahid. Abdullah Shahid, very, very important, and I expect a question on this, especially in the backdrop of the Russian war. So Abdullah Shahid is the present president of the UNGA, and he's from Maldives, right? Maldives. He's a Maldivian politician who has served as the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Maldives since 2018, right? So this is about the General Assembly president. Then you also have the post of Secretary General, very important position, the Secretary General of United Nations, right? Now Antonio Guterres from Portugal. Antonio Guterres is the Secretary General of the United Nations, and he is there since 2017 and is the 9th person to hold the title, right? So we are clear with Antonio Guterres and Abdullah Shahid, right? So Abdullah Shahid is the President of General Assembly, and Antonio Guterres is the Secretary General of the United Nations, right? Moving ahead. So this article talking about the Russia's war must stop, and the things that we have discussed about the ICJ how it voted against the war and the civilian toll, right? So I hope it is clear. Coming to the next news article from the Hindu, today's Hindu, right? So as you can see on the screen, guys, the controversy over the proposed Mekadatu water project, very, very important. I expect a question on this. Mekadatu water project, guys, it is located on Kaveri river, right? I'll just draw a physical map of the peninsular India so that you can understand the things. Guys, in the peninsular India, this is your Arabian Sea and this is Bay of Bengal, right? Now starting from north to south, this river, peninsular river, is called as Mahanadi, over which one dam is being built called as Hirakud Dam. Then you have river much more lengthy and broader, Godavari, also called as Dakshin Ganga. Then you have Krishna, another east flowing river. So this is I bet I mentioned wrongly, west and east. So another east flowing river. And then the article is about Kaveri. Kaveri, right? Guys, Kaveri as a river originates near Coorg. If you have been to a hill station called as Coorg, right? There you have the origin of Kaveri at a place called as Thal Kaveri, right? At Brahmagiri Hills. At Brahmagiri Hills you have a place called as Thal Kaveri where this river originates, a mighty river, and it, you know, it forms the boundary of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and it also has intersection in Kerala and also the Union Territory of Pondicherry, right? So it has its basin in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Union Territory of Pondicherry as well as Kerala, right? A very big river, Kaveri. Now over Kaveri, a dam is being built. There are many important dams on Kaveri, and there has been always dispute over the water sharing of Kaveri, because Karnataka is located as at a higher altitude, and if you know is a and if Karnataka builds dam over Kaveri, it would block the water going down to Tamil Nadu, right? Because Tamil Nadu is a riparian state. So again I repeat, if Karnataka builds dams over Kaveri, then it would have an adverse impact on the water supply in Tamil Nadu, right? So therefore this new article is very important, where this dam is being built over Kaveri, right? And Tamil Nadu government is objecting about this dam because it would reduce the water supply in their state, right? So I hope it is clear. Now moving to the article, the controversy over the proposed Mekadatu, right? So they may ask you that Mekadatu water power project is over which river? So the answer should be Kaveri, right? And which state? Karnataka. So just by heart this name, Mekedatu, right? So it is a, this is a project which is water cum power generation project. That means it is drinking water plus power generation project, right? So it would supply the drinking water as well as power generation, right? Electricity generation or power generation plus the drinking water, right? And it is at the Karnataka Tamil Nadu border, and it would block 67,000 million cubic feet of water, right? So therefore it is a very big impoundment in that sense. And project Karnataka is saying that project falls completely inside its own jurisdiction limits, right? But then Tamil Nadu is objecting that the water must be shared, and and you cannot block the water beyond the capacity being mentioned under Kaveri Water Tribunal Award, right? So River Kaveri is always under dispute between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, and for the same Kaveri Water Management Authority was also being formed, and they are demanding the detailed project report or DPR under the same, right? So this article is also very important, and you must go through this article. This is the view of the proposed Mekedatu water power project. So the details that I just mentioned, It's a drinking cum power generation project, and the Karnataka gave the project shape. The final award of the Kaveri Water Disputes Tribunal was notified in the year 2013, allocating the riparian states their shares. And the state also submitted a detailed project report or DPR to the Central Water Commission in the year 2019. What is Karnataka's stand? They are saying that Tamil Nadu would be anyways getting the water, and they argue that since there is no stay in the court for the project, Karnataka would go ahead, right? And they would also get the water from the uncontrolled catchments. There are many dams over the Kaveri river, like Krishna Raj Sagar Dam. If you've been to Mysore, near Vrindavan Gardens, you will find this dam, a very beautiful dam, Krishna Raj Sagar Dam. There is also a dam over Kaveri river called as Kabini Dam. If I talk about the Kaveri river, as I said, that it originates from Thal Kaveri at Brahmagiri range, and the basin extends over the states of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala and Union Territory of Pondicherry, as I just mentioned. Karnataka receives rainfall from southwest monsoon, whereas Tamil Nadu receives from the northeast monsoon, as you would be knowing. So therefore, the water in Tamil Nadu generally flows in the winters. If I talk about the important tributaries of Kaveri, which I presume is important, and they may ask a question on this. The left bank tributaries of Kaveri are Hemavati, Arkavati, some important ones, and the right bank tributaries of Kaveri are Kabani, over which dam is also being built, Suvarnavati and Bhavani, right, and Amravati. Guys, just at the Karnataka and Tamil Nadu border, you have this Shiv Samundram Falls, over which various Bollywood movies are also being shot. Shiv Samundram Falls, right, 101 meters high over the Karnataka Tamil Nadu border, right. They also have waterfalls called as Hogenikal Falls, right. So Shiv Samundram waterfalls, Hogenikal waterfalls. Because it from Shiv Samundram, the Kaveri river branches off into two separate parts, and falls through the height of 90 meters in a series of falls and rapids, right. So from Shiv Samundram, the river branches off into two different parts, right, and these two different branches meet again at a very wide gorge called as Mekadatu, right. So therefore Mekadatu is literally, it means goat's leap, right, and the two branches, because from Shiv Samundram Falls the water of Kaveri branches off into two parts, and then these two parts again meet at Mekadatu, also called as goat's leap, right, and then continue its journey to form the boundary between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, right. Then you have Hogenikal Falls, and from there it enters into Tamil Nadu, over which a very important dam is being built, Mettur Dam or Mettur Reservoir, also called as Stanley Reservoir, right. So these are the important dams, guys. Krishna Raj Sagar, Mettur Dam, over which Stanley Reservoir and Ellis Park are being built. Then you have Kabini Dam, so on and so forth, right. I hope it is clear, and I expect a question on Mekadetu water power project, which is a drinking water and power generation project, right. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the session. God bless you. Wish you all the best. See you in the next class. Good day. Goodbye.